Well, we still have with us Arise News analyst Dayo Sobowale, and he'll be discussing the developments which we brought up earlier, and that was about the state's failure to access 68 billion naira UBEC fund despite the challenges of Nigeria's 20 million out-of-school children crisis. Mr. Sobowale, thank you so much for your patience, and we're going to get back to it, of course. I'm just wondering, I think earlier in the week we touched on the goals of trying to ensure that 15 million of the out-of-school children are put back in school by the year 2027. With developments like this, do you think that it might pose a hindrance to that goal being achieved?
But you see, what you just said must have prompted this revelation now.
Indeed.
What we discussed the other time, which you are laughing about, it's a serious issue.
I'm not laughing about it.
That was what must have prompted this. Because 20 million people, I know we did the analysis about the states with the least number and the states with the highest number. And I mentioned there that the highest number are in the northern states. And it is in the north that we have always had political power in this nation. But there has been no premium in education. And that invariably led to Almanjeri and Boko Haram. And well, we were talking of normal people before, but now it seems, since the explanation of the Sultan, you can see that it's not really a religious uprising in the north now, but you have a kidnapping, banditry, and from what I've just seen and heard of recent, it is the bandits, you get me, who are the cattle rustlers. So when you see cattle rustlers carrying AK-47 and all that, they are not normal cattle people. I even read a story in the paper today in Zamfara. They closed 11 cattle markets because those cattle markets were said to be dominated by cattle rustlers, and they were selling cattle they have stolen. You see, when we talk of farmer cattle herders conflict, they say that now has been infiltrated by cattle rustlers who are almost like mercenaries and who are not only in Nigeria but all over West Africa. But coming back to this UBEC something, I was blaming UBEC for giving this information now. And I think it is not government now. The House of Representatives or the Senate must have education committees. They should pick them up. They should pick them up. Because the basis, when that thing was done, the basis was that Nigerians, youth, children should be educated. But that they didn't just want to throw the money just out, like Femi Falana is saying now, that they must disperse them directly to the states before January 15. And January 15, incidentally, was the date of our first coup. That's a very ominous date. But you see, you don't run government by writ of mandamus. If he wants to do that, he should just write Tinubu and take him to court for not doing so many things we say people have not been enjoying. But he has done a nice thing in prompting UBEC to bring out that figure. And it's a huge figure. Now we need a report. I think it has to be done by the House Committee on Education to visit UBEC and let UBEC explain why it is keeping money idle when about 20 million Nigerians are uneducated. It's a very serious issue.
Now, we're blaming UBEC, but what about the state governments who are coming up with budgets every year?
I just mentioned them before.
Please let me land. They're coming up with budgets every year, billions being spent on governors' conveniences, if I may call it that. And Section 3 of the Education Reforms Act demands that they need to meet the mandate to contribute half or 50% of the total cost of projects to be executed for education. So is it UBEC's fault? UBEC are there to receive the proposals from government, but what about the state governments? When are we going to hold them accountable? I know you're saying we should come up with a House committee and so forth, but shouldn't more be done? Because
that is what happens when you break transmissions. That is what I just narrated before. That is just, Falano said they should send the money directly to the states. I said, no, this thing was started in 2009. The law was voted in 2004. You get me? And it was not meant to be money down the drain. It was money meant to be accounted for the social good of educating Nigerian children. But that was not done. The policy was that 50%, it contributed to the state that realized that 50% of the amount, the federal government would add 50%. And then before you can come back to ask for more, you must show evidence that you have implemented 70% of that. It's like a banking transaction. But what I even told you was in states where you have the least number of out of school children, states like in the south or the southeast or north central, where they value education. You get me? You will not have many people, you will not have that request. They may not come with that. They will, because their facilities are on the ground. And they may feel they may not be able to contribute that 50% government. So they may do with what they have. What I'm saying is that of concern to the government and to the House of Representatives and the Senate are the northern states. We have the largest number of out-of-school children. Let them find out how much did they collect from UBEC and what have they done with it. But as a whole, UBEC too should be probed for sitting on money meant to be utilized and without raising alarm. That it has not been done. I can assure you it was because of this out-of-school children information revealed by UNICEF and UNESCO, you get me, and Discosia, that Farano got information. I wrote UBEC. If UBEC can respond with such alacrity, you get me, why did it use the alacrity to distribute funds meant to educate people who are now roaming all over the streets? That's the issue. That is the solution. I don't believe in just, mentioning problems. UBEC has done something. Why UBEC should be asked to show reason why for so many years it had such funds in its custody and did not raise alarm that people who are not fulfilling their obligation. The state government too, they should be asked, why didn't you come to ask for it? Some may have their reason for not asking for it, if they have the budget, if they have the level of education that they feel they can cope with. If you look at the number of out-of-school children in some states, it's not over 10, 20,000. Whereas in some states, it's talking of millions. So that is the issue. Let UBEC be more forthcoming. Let the federal government that set up the commission ask it to provide answers. Let the legislators that people elected to look after their interests, to get their children educated, ask questions of UBEC. That's what they have the oversight committees for. Let them do that. And I'm sure it will clear the problem.
Well, also, Mr. Sobowale, now in addition to what you've highlighted, what further steps outside of these would you like to see to actually probably exceed that goal? Because that goal of 15 million out-of-school children in 2017 is still.
You have 20 million people. Out of this mention 15, and you see what of the remaining people.
That was the goal that was highlighted.
It is to clear up everything. Okay. But as usual, it cannot be done overnight.
Yes.
But it's a very bad taste, a bad state of affairs. And anyway, when Falana said he should release the money by January 15, even if they release it, what of the security in the area?
Absolutely.
How can people go to school? How do people go to school? People have to go to school in a secure environment, which is not happening in the north right now. And that is where you have the preponderance of out-of-school children.
Now, to go back to your point, Mr. Sobowale, where you highlighted that, of course, it's not a level playing field. Some states are further ahead with education than others, of course, with the focus on what's happening in the north. Now, this 50% or half, as is stated by the Constitution, do you think that it's fair for it to be a blanket policy for all states? Or do you think that it's time for us to take a look at those states that possibly may not have the IGR, may not have the budgets to be able to meet that 50% benchmark, but still need these funds released? Because I think it is important that each of the states show a commitment to investing in education with their own funds, as opposed to UBEC becoming a free-for-all, and then tomorrow we hear about this corruption and that corruption. We're not sure whether these funds will ever meet the needs that they're set out to. So to adjust the playing field, do you think that it might make this process a little bit smoother and produce more results if this 50% or the percentage contribution that's supposed to come from the state was altered according to the finances of that state?
I don't know about the level playing field. We have information on the ground, we have data. And this is the Constitution, like you rightly said. If a state doesn't want to take it, it's not by force.
But if they want to, but they can't afford to? How
can they not afford? You see, they even said, I read the report, some states, I don't want to mention their names. The 50%, the budget they gave to government was filled up with vehicles, cars, luxurious things, school buses. Whereas this project is meant to provide infrastructure to house students for schooling and for teachers too, you get me, for their training and all that. It was UBEC which showed that people are not, you see, to avert that, you see, you must appreciate the intention of those who started UBEC. That is why I appreciate people like Obasanjo, because you'll be shaking his head. They had lofty ideals. But if people circumvent that, you get me, or misuse the opportunity, it's not their fault. Those who put that thing there, that it's like you want to do a project in the bank. The bank will say, okay, how much do you have? So we know how much we gave you. That shows commitment. So it's not that should be overhauled. Because if you just say you give them money, you know Nigeria, there will be no accountability. Those who put the process in place were interested in honest delivery of educational services and engagement of children in schools. If you need it, come for it, you show commitment, then we give you this. And then you must show performance that you have done 70% of the project, then we release to you. But some never came. Maybe some came, they will not come back because they cannot show evidence of the 70%. Look, I'll show you an example now that you have mentioned this. When I was doing national service, community service, some people came from Lagos. I was in Mubi, in Sardauna province. They came to inspect schools where we will do community service. When they got there, they showed them the site, they saw blocks, bundle of blocks. You get it? That's the school. They said a school. And they had a staff role, staff or whatever. Because the country is so big, at times it's difficult to monitor projects. But you see, successive governments have had good, lofty projects to avert this sort of 20 million out of school children. But it's the implementation that is the problem. So you cannot just say because UBEC, if you have my way, UBEC should be prosecuted for keeping that sort of money for so long. It is irresponsible. Yeah. And that is why I said we run a democracy. It is not the military something. That's why Falano cannot just say reach of mandamus by January 15. Its intention is honest and patriotic. But let's work within our democracy. The legislators are sent there to look after the interests of the people. And they have about 80 subcommittees. Education must be amongst them. Senate must have the same thing. Let them, I'm not saying they should probe UBEC, but let them ask UBEC questions. Now, what have you done to, or what is your contribution to us having 20 million people children out of school?
Indeed. Very well said. Absolutely. I don't know who would have done better justice to this. We know your passion for education, and we'd like to thank you for your time and analysis as always. Arise News analyst Mr. Dayo Sobowale, thank you for joining us.